Hello, instructor and fellow classmates. My name is Jess Perez, and I'm going to do my video presentation on the research proposal. And of course, we all know it's basically a rough draft. So I compile a number of slides for all of you to see. I did a total of 11 slides when it includes my reference and also my introduction. My research proposal is about how social media affects junior high students. The reason why I chose to do this, I feel like this particular group is very vulnerable. I feel like when we're children, we know exactly who we are. That's why kids don't lie, they always tell the truth, and they're very straightforward. I feel like when we get to that junior high group, we're trying to figure out what adults we're going to become. So we struggle with trying to find a way to fit in. That's when we deal with bullying because we don't exactly fit in with certain groups. As I experienced personally in junior high, there were already certain cliques as I walked into the junior high. So already I felt that didn't really belong anywhere. Now, social media wasn't big when I went to school, but now with all the outlets we have, such as TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, just to name a few, there's a lot more accessibility when it comes to what kids have access to now. And I'm going to say the biggest thing will be the kids that are only just watching videos, not really reacting to anything. So they're just observing this information, not really interacting. So I think this is where the negative feedback comes from, and where they start forming their opinions about themselves. Then we get into cyberbullying. So this is one of the main reasons why I thought this topic was important. I also have a 13-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son, and kind of now from the watching from the outside in to with my own kids, I am very cautious about what they watch. So I'm able to monitor a lot of their social activity. But yet, even though I am a very involved parent, I still catch certain things that I necessarily don't agree with. But I do know that I do have to let my kids experience things so they can become better adults and be prepared for the life out there, right? Because I'm not always going to be around. So my research proposal, and I'm going to I hope you can see my presentation here. So the first slide kind of talks about the introduction, and I just kind of gave you a brief description of what it is, why I was interested in this topic in particular. And like I said, because I have kids on my own, and I'm able to see things, and I can retract back to what I wish I would have known when I was a kid. Especially with things like TikTok and Snapchat now, when there's filters, I already feel like kids already have certain insecurities about self-image. And if we don't guide children properly, they could develop self-esteem issues that they will carry on to adulthood. And it might also affect how they interact with other people socially. If they are already naturally introverts, then they won't have a hard time communicating with others and interacting and developing relationships. Now, if somebody's experiencing cyberbullying, if we've seen recent news, there's kids that have unalived themselves because they didn't know how to deal with what they were going through when it comes to the cyberbullying. I'm sure if the parents were aware of what was going on, the parents would have acted on their behalf and kind of guided them through what they needed, right? So when it comes to the if you guys can see where I'm at, I'm actually on slide 3. The measures must include current levels of self-esteem and body image satisfaction, right? Because that's what I feel like, even me as an adult, when I look at TikTok, I am looking for the latest trends. I'm trying to be a hip mom. So then I will look to what are the hot moms wearing, right? So I want to be the cool mom. So when it comes to looking at what it's out there, sometimes I myself experience this where I will see something somebody's wearing and it looks like a nice trend that I might want to pick up on. Then I start kind of second guessing myself on my own insecurities. So if I feel this as an adult, how would a child who's still trying to find themselves deal with things, specific ways and patterns of how they're absorbing this information, and are they capable to guide themselves out of something that might necessarily be good for them, and how is this affecting their social environment, right? Are they more involved with dealing with just a device versus making interactions and connections with people? Okay. When it came to my literature review, I did look into several sources. I did wanted to make sure that I had enough information about different platforms. Now, mind you, my experience with social media, it's limited. I have to ask my kids sometimes how to use things. So I had to really research and try to find out how is this exposure to kids affecting their lifestyles, right? Do they foster negative social comparisons? And I know that I've experienced this myself, so I'm thinking yes. So they're, the positive peer interactions, are they happening when they do interact? But what about those kids that don't have probably the courage to interact with others when they are on social media? That's why you see also kids do a lot of cosplay, not themselves, but they adopt this personas online and be sort of adopt them versus reality. So I found that very interesting that, even if you think about Shakespeare, when he talks about someone using a mask as a disguise because they can be themselves versus if they are themselves, they feel like they can't be themselves, if that makes sense, right? So overall, the literature points there is complex interplay factors, emphasizing the importance of considering individual differences and usage patterns, right? So a kid who might look at having social media and interacting with people on social media may find the satisfaction in that connection, so they'll interact more with people that have similar interests, if that makes sense, right? If you My sixth slide, which is my methods, based on the existing research and stated objectives, the study that hypothesizes the junior high school students who spend more time on social media platforms will report lower levels of self-esteem and body image satisfaction. So it's almost as though you would think that if they were on social media and they saw all these cool things going on, it would actually enhance their self-esteem, but it actually does the reverse of that, right? It counteracts with their positive self-image. Now they'll do something as scrolling, constant scrolling, but no interaction, and that in itself is affecting the self-esteem, which I found very interesting. Also, experiences of cyberbullying, like I mentioned before, peer feedback are expected to be significantly predictors of reduced self-esteem. So these interactions will either be accepted in a positive fashion or they could totally be negative, and then it will affect the self-image of the child. Now, with the research that I did and the comprehensive data that I did, do, I utilized questionnaires for both. It had to be a range of group of kids that are from the age of 14 to the age of 17. So this questionnaire will actually have them go through their usage patterns, how often are they on the device, what particular sites are they on. So I think this is very important, and it will show habits, and the fact of how much time they spend on a particular platform could also guide us in a particular research. Okay. So when it comes to future findings, addressing the peer and role interactions will play a big role in this. The cyberbullying plays a big factor in all of this. I would say that combine all those measures could result in multiple dimensions of how they influence a particular self-esteem of the kid. So that's what I found also interesting in second, going to future research. And I think that if this was good to move up to a high school group, it wouldn't necessarily work that way. I feel like when you're in high school, you almost have to have figured out your life by then. That particular group of junior high kids, they're still trying to figure out who they are in this world. So this is why I found this research to be very interesting. Now, if you're curious about the grade group, where it will be somewhere between 7th and 9th grade. So, and it will be, of course, it has to be local schools. I'm gonna say in a place where you could have like maybe within a 15-mile radius, there'll be like 5 different schools, and that will, I think, will be the perfect scenario. And my last slide, it has all my references, which I think I have a total of about 5 references, and I think I compiled a little bit more, but I needed to condense my presentation to a little bit shorter than what I originally had, because I do have this rough draft, but of course I know this is just the beginning, and then I look forward to your feedback. Hope you enjoy. I know I ramble a lot. I'm not really good at videos, so thank you for bearing with me. It's nice seeing you all. Bye.